Hello and welcome to Clearview TV News, reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. In the news, as Nigeria joins the world to celebrate Eid al-Fitr, President Buhari has vowed to protect Nigerians against all forms of aggression, even as Muslim faithful call for peace and tolerance. Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Tijani Mohammed Bande, emerges president of 74th UN General Assembly, and Sudan's military leaders scrap existing agreements with opposition coalition, promise to hold elections within 9 months. I am Nten Epan with the details of these stories and others. In our top story, President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday assured residents of the Federal Capital Territory FCT Abuja that his administration will do everything possible to protect them, despite the fact that Abuja residents voted against him. President Buhari also pleaded with political leaders, especially his supporters, not to complain against his administration to avoid sending negative signals that will make his government unpopular. Speaking while receiving residents of FCT that paid him Salah homage at the presidential villa Abuja, President Buhari, who jokingly described the Abuja residents as unnecessary evil for not voting for him in the February 23 presidential election, stated that he would continue to protect the seat of power because any negative thing that happens to the place would also affect him and the entire residents. Recalling the tortuous journey he went through before he was elected after 3 attempts, President Buhari said that the attempts were interesting political developments that enabled him to visit all the local government areas in the country.
You are only just at various levels here. What we expect and appeal to you is to keep straight faces all the time, so that those working under you will have the impression that the government is doing wonderfully well. If you break down and complain in front of them, the impact will reverberate all over, and then the government will not be popular, in a sense that what effort we are making may not be fully appreciated. I have just spoken to a senator on my left, and I told him that his constituency did not vote me. So I am very pleased when they make the arrangement, they put his chair further away from me. I now will have the time to sit and watch or study the results of all constituencies. And I'm not threatening FCT because to make FCT secure is to make myself secure and the vice president.
The Ramadan, the period of the fast, it's always a very good time because, first of all of my friends who usually are very badly behaved, behave themselves much better. You know, I will not mention any names here today, but they know themselves. All of them know that. There are some of them are even looking at me now. And I want to pray and hope that the good behavior that they maintained during the period of the fast will continue even for the next 4 years and beyond.
Most certainly for the successes of your inauguration ceremony and the beginning of your second term in office. We pray that Almighty Allah in His infinite goodness and mercy continue to grant you good health and wisdom as we steer our country back to the path of social harmony, security, and economic recovery. The people of FCT stand solidly behind you as you begin this task and pledge our support and cooperation in coming years ahead. We do this, sir, because we are grateful people. Over the last 4 years, the FCT has benefited immensely from your wise and, we believe, divine, inspired leadership.
And as Muslims around the world bid Ramadan farewell with the celebration of Eid al-Fitr, the celebration marking the end of the Muslim holy month, they have again been urged to abide by the lessons learnt during Ramadan. National President of Ansarudeen, Alhaji Ari Adesholu, renewed the plea while delivering his salam message during this year's Eid al-Fitr prayer. The national president, who was represented by Alhaji Yusuf Adebayo Ibrahim, also urged the Muslim Ummah to continue doing good even after the month of Ramadan. Our correspondent Magdalene Michael has the details.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
That was the Chief Imam of Ansarudeen Abuja branch, Dr. Musa Olaofe, leading other Muslims to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr prayer, in which Muslim faithful thronged the praying ground to thank God for the successful completion of the fast. In his salam message, National President of Ansarudeen Alhaji Are Adeshola, represented by Alhaji Yusuf Adebayo Ibrahim, urged Muslims to love one another, irrespective of their religion, ethnicity, or political inclination, in order to ensure selfless contribution to national development.
Before Muslim and non-Muslim can adhere strictly to the above injunctions of the Holy Quran, not only Nigeria but also the whole world will be a better place for us to live.
Alhaji Yusuf maintained that good deeds shouldn't come to an end after Ramadan, hence the need to remain conscious of the teachings of the Holy Quran.
Doing good and justice to everybody is important in the country. We have to do good to everybody. Your neighbors at right and your neighbors at left. Those are far and those are close to you, do good to them, which is very key to our religion.
Some Muslims who participated at the Eid thanked Allah for the grace to witness this year's Ramadan and prayed for peaceful coexistence in the country.
For the good things we have learned from the holy month of living together in peace and being keepers of one another, I pray that this holy month, with all the prayers we have prayed for this country, for God Almighty to accept our prayers and then also guide our leaders, and so that the right thing will be done.
We started with a Bismillah and we head up with Alhamdulillah. May Almighty Allah keep us alive to take many Ramadan in life.
Traditionally, Eid is celebrated for 3 days as an official holiday in all Muslim majority countries. However, the federal government of Nigeria declared Tuesday and Wednesday as public holiday. In Abuja, Magdalene Michael for Clearview TV.
And as Muslims across the globe celebrate Eid al-Fitr, Clearview TV's Busola Oworo in this special report examines the significance of the event in the lives of adherents of the Muslim faith.
Muslim faithful all over embarked on fasting, which lasts for either 29 or 30 days, depending on when the crescent moon is sighted. This holy month of fasting is known as Son. The day of Eid therefore falls on the first day of the month of Shawwal, and is also called the festival of breaking the fast. Most times the exact day of celebration varies by locality, depending on when the new moon is sighted by local religious authorities.
Why we make it 29? Because we are considering the indicator of beginning of Ramadan or ending is Ru'yat Hilal. That is to look at the crescent, to watch, to just see the new moon. If we are able to see it using all the available means, by mere watching or using your telescopes everywhere, anything means you didn't see it, then you are automatically to complete 30. But if you are lucky and you have seen it by people that are trustworthy, now you will just announce that it has been seen, and it will be 29th and not 30.
Eid al-Fitr has a particular salat, that is Islamic prayer consisting of 2 rakats, and generally usually offered in an open field or large hall. With the importance attached to the celebration of Eid al-Fitr, what is the significance of the celebration?
So as we are celebrating Eid today, is marking the end of this year Ramadan.
Okay.
Prayer fasting. So now it is a day that we need to share happiness, joy, exchange gifts and greetings, as well as going out for prayer.
According to Muslim scholars, the day of Eid al-Fitr symbolizes piety, patience, fortitude, and godliness.
What is expected of people today is to be praising Allah continuously and to also celebrate, because today is a day of celebration. Everybody is expected to celebrate. In fact, some of the things that are not even allowed in Islam today are been allowed. Things like singing and dancing. On Salah Day, it's allowed. So it's a day of celebration. People are expected to celebrate, to visit one another, to also greet one another in peace.
This celebration to advise the Muslim Ummah that we should unite together. We should come together as one family. And not only that, we should extend that goodness to those who are non-Muslims, like Christians. Talk to them politely. They are your neighbors, they are your friends, they are your family too. So by the time you do all this to them, they will be very happy with you, the way you do your things and conduct yourself.
With the holiness and good character imbibed during the holy month of fasting, it is expected that many will not derail. Busola Oworu, reporting for Clearview TV.
And still on the celebration of the Eid al-Fitr, our correspondent Ife Oluwaishala was at the streets of Abuja as well as the Millennium Park to observe how people celebrated Eid al-Fitr. Those who spoke with Ishola called for peace and good neighborliness as both Muslims and Christians all worship the same God. The report.
Happy Salah celebration to every one of you out there. As you can see, I'm out to examine the city of Abuja. And if you look around me, you will see that the city is so empty, quiet, and scanty. Why do we have this? Is because a lot of people have traveled to celebrate Salah with their family and loved ones. Salah celebration marks the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which is celebrated at the third month of the Islamic calendar. I'm here in Millennium Park to ask our brothers and sisters what is the significance of the celebration and what message do they have to people at home for celebrating the Ramadan.
I come here for Salah celebration. You know, today is Salah. All the Muslims do celebration as a Salah celebration. Salah is very important in Islam. You know, at the end of the month of Ramadan, Muslims do Salah because it was commanded. It is the tradition of our holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fasting is one pillar of Islam. So fasting is very important in Islam and important to us Muslims. To them is they should abide by the rules and regulation of Islam. They should not violate any. Always Islam call for peace. So Islam is calling for peace. I advise my fellow Muslims that they should use this opportunity to abide by those rules and regulations. They should stay in peace with it. We should stay in peace with each other.
I came to join my Muslim friends and brother in the celebration of God's blessings. The atmosphere is peaceful, and this goes to show that if we continue to strive for peace, Nigeria will be a better place for us.
Celebrate for my Salah happiness. We just finished our Ramadan, which is yesterday. And according to Islamic constitution, if you finish your Ramadan, you have to go and celebrate, enjoy your life. Because even in the Quran constitution, God said, if God do something for you, which is happiness, you have to show yourself and happen and celebrate. I will advise them to that. May they not just keep themselves in the house, since God have already given them the happiness.
Just came to hang out. It's Salah Day. It's public holiday. The kids are at home. We just came out to celebrate with the Muslim brothers and sisters. Them to utilize this opportunity of celebrating the Salah, to maintain peace. And I'm a Christian though, for we Christian and Muslims, for us to love ourselves more, because as far as I'm concerned, we're serving one God.
I'm here to celebrate Salah with my family. Today marks the end of Ramadan, which is the holy month. My advice to everyone outside there is we should live in peace as one. Both the Christians and Muslims are one before God.
Of course, it's a time of celebration as we have not only the Muslims but the Christians out here to celebrate Salah celebration. From Millennium Park in Abuja, Ifeoluwa Ishola, reporting for Clearview Television.
The Emir of Kano Alhaji Muhammadu Sanusi II on Tuesday urged political leaders in the country to give attention to female education as they did with their male counterparts. Sanusi spoke in Kano shortly after he led the Eid prayer at Kofa Mata Central Eid Ground, adding that the people need to prioritize their commitment towards the education of female, just like their male counterparts. The Emir, who met face-to-face with Governor Abhadi Ganduje since the creation of 4 additional emirates in the state, expressed the need for Nigerians to continue to pray for the peace and progress of the state and the country at large. The Emir also advocated the rights of the girl child to education and urged Muslims to fear God in all their activities, reminding them that each of them must give account of their deeds hereafter. Sanusi called on the people of the state to continue to pray against banditry, kidnapping and other vices. He admonished Kano people to support each other and work as a team for the overall development of the state. In Kogi State, Governor Yahaya Bello joined thousands of Muslim faithful to observe the Eid prayers in his hometown, Okene, urging the people to continue to embrace peace and unity to move the state forward. The governor specifically commended the people of Kogi Central Senatorial District for conducting themselves in a peaceful and orderly manner during the festive period. Bello, however, dismissed the rumor making the rounds that he is not in good terms with the Ohinoi of Ebira, His Royal Majesty Ohinoi Ado Ibrahim. The royal father had also in his message called the rumor mongers to relay stories that are genuine. He said he has no grudge against the governor. The acting chief imam of Okene, Salihu Ahmed Abere, who emphasized the need for holiness, urged Muslims and non-Muslims to fear God and that people should turn away from evil to make heaven. Governor Darius Ishaku of Taraba has called on Muslim Ummah across the country to continue with intercessory prayers for the nation after the month of Ramadan for the country to surmount its challenges. The governor, in his goodwill message to mark this year's Salah celebration, felicitated with those in Taraba State for the successful completion of the 1-month fast, which he described as one of the important pillars of Islam. The message, which was contained in a statement by his senior special assistant on media and publicity, Dan Bala Abu, encouraged Muslim Ummah in the state to emulate the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, whom he said never discriminated against others but showed love and tolerance. He said he was aware that throughout the period of fasting, the Muslim Ummah have been engaged in fervent prayers for the state and the nation, self-examination, religious revival, giving of alms to the poor in the society, as well as focusing on the family and the community in which they live. He urged them not to only continue in prayer for peace, understanding and brotherliness in the state, but also show it in their attitude to friends and neighbors at all times. The National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Uche Secondus, has charged Muslims in the country to use the occasion of the Eid al-Fitr celebration to pray fervently for the survival of the country. Secondus, in a statement by his media aide, Ike Abonyi, said the situation of the country is discomforting, noting that only God's intervention can bring succor to the people. The PDP leader stated that after 4 years of the All Progressives Congress APC-led federal government, all indicators point to the fact that the country is under severe pressure. The PDP chieftain alleged that President Muhammadu Buhari's administration had failed in harnessing the abundant human and material resources in the country. Rather than deliver good governance, he said the current administration had allegedly resorted to various undemocratic acts to thwart the will of the people. Secondus was quoted as saying the security situation in the country, the uncertainty in the polity, and the worsening economic downturn, which are consequences of poor leadership, entails that Nigerians should return to God for help and direction. You're watching the news coming to you from Clearview TV. We'll be back after this time out. Please stay with us.
Barakat Salah from the Federal Road Safety Commission.
The Federal Road Safety Corps appreciates the continuous support being received from the motoring public. Road traffic crashes are trending down, and concerted effort is being made by the government to improve on road safety management. As celebration approaches, it is expected that road users will undertake trips to visit families and loved ones. The call encourages you to conduct vehicle safety checks before embarking on your trip, avoid night journeys, use your seat belts, avoid overloading and driving above prescribed speed limits, comply with road traffic laws and regulations. Prevention is always the best approach to avoid road traffic crashes and injuries. I implore you all to please partner with FRSC to reduce road traffic crashes on our highways. Drive to save a life. I wish you all happy celebration.
Welcome back. And to other stories now, Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Tijani Muhammad Bande, has emerged the president of the 74th UN General Assembly. Muhammad Bande, the sole candidate for the position, was elected through acclamation at the 87th plenary of the Assembly in New York on Tuesday. He is the second Nigerian to hold the office after Joseph Garba, a retired military officer and diplomat who led the organ between 1989 and 1990. He will be inaugurated in September. President Muhammadu Buhari has issued a proclamation for the 9th National Assembly to commence sitting from Tuesday. The presidential action was contained in a one-page document titled Proclamation for the Holding of the First Session of the 9th National Assembly, bearing the president's seal and signed on May 30. Buhari said he was proclaiming the 9th Assembly in line with Section 64 Sub 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The document stated, inter alia, whereas it is provided in Section 64(3) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, the person elected as president shall have power to issue a proclamation for the holding of the first session of the National Assembly immediately after being sworn in. Controversy, however, appeared to have dogged the authenticity of the proclamation document, while sources at the office of the Clerk of the National Assembly, Alhaji Mohammed Sani Omolori, confirmed that the document was actually received from the President. The former Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly matters, Senator Itayanang, feigned ignorance of the document. The Abuja Division of the Federal High Court has fixed Friday for judgment on the suit of former Governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, filed for an order to compel the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to issue him a certificate of return as Senator-elect for Imo West Senatorial District. Trial Justice Okonabang okayed the matter for judgment after all the parties, including candidates of some political parties that participated in the election, adopted processes they filed for the suit to be dismissed. The candidates, who through their lawyers persuaded the court to join them as interested parties, said Okorocha's suit lacked merit and deserved to be thrown out. They separately contended that the High Court lacked the jurisdiction to order INEC to recognize Okorocha as the winner of the disputed senatorial seat. Those the court joined in the suit are the candidates of the All Progressives Grand Alliance (APGA), Chief Osita Izunaso, People's Democratic Party (PDP), Mr. Jones Onyereri, Kowa Party, Mr. Nwachuku Clement, United Progressive Party (UPP), Precious Nwadike, and Dr. Uche Ipe of Labour Party (LP). Justice Abang had on May 22 suspended proceedings on the matter following an appeal Izunasu filed with respect to the suit. Izunasu had gone before the appellate court to challenge the decision of the High Court to assume jurisdiction in the case. In its 6 grounds of appeal, Izunasu argued that by hearing and granting joinder applications that were brought by all the candidates that participated in the polls, the court exercised jurisdiction it does not have. He therefore argued that the court should not have taken any steps until it had determined whether or not it has jurisdiction to entertain Okorocha's suit. Meanwhile, following a note from the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal, Justice Abang subsequently heard all the parties and reserved the case for judgment. Okorocha had in his suit prayed the court to among other things, order INEC to issue him a certificate of return to enable him to proceed to the Senate. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, on Monday commenced his second 5-year tenure following his reappointment by President Muhammadu Buhari. Emefiele formally assumed duty after subscribing to the relevant oath of office administered by the CBN Secretary and Director of Corporate Secretary Department, Alice Kerau at the headquarters of the Apex Bank. Emefiele, who was said to have been received into the bank by 4 deputy governors, was visibly elated by the turnout of excited staff that thronged the venue of the oath-taking ceremony, chanting his name. In his remarks after the oath-taking ceremony, the governor expressed gratitude to God, President Buhari for nominating him, and the Senate for confirming his appointment. He also thanked the management and staff as well as the media for all their support during his first term in office, while disclosing that he would unfold a new roadmap for the bank and the economy in the days ahead. After a series of consultations with critical stakeholders, Emefiele charged all stakeholders to strengthen efforts at building a healthy and stable system in the best interest of Nigeria. The governor also reiterated the goal to make the CBN more people-focused, adding that the bank remained resolute in the belief that it must play an active role in supporting job and wealth creation in Nigeria. In reviewing the various efforts taken by the bank to reduce weaknesses in the Nigerian financial system as well as support improved productivity of the Nigerian economy, Emefiele said more work still needed to be done in building a stronger economy for the benefit of all. According to him, the pace of gross domestic product (GDP) remained fragile and was below the rate of Nigeria's annual population growth at 2.7%. It therefore pledged that the bank will continue to collaborate with the fiscal authorities to strengthen growth and wealth creation in the country. The Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) has said that Nigeria is ready for 5G network. Executive Director of the Commission, Professor Umar Dambeta, who disclosed this at an interactive session with journalists in Abuja on Monday, said the enlisting of leading mobile operator into the stock exchange. Other operators, including Bharti Airtel, Globacom, and iMobile, were getting set to join the fray. He said NCC, apart from holding a stakeholders forum to come up with a roadmap on 5G, the Commission had opened consultations with Spectrum for drones and was proactively leading discussions on the deployment of new technologies. He said apart from constantly engaging with state governors through NEC of Nigerian Governors Forum, the NCC also licensed Infracos to provide fiber bandwidth on open access basis. On why NCC was so fixated more on mobile broadband than fixed broadband, he explained that the National Broadband Plan had both mobile and fixed components, with which NCC is exerting action in both directions. He said citizens in the near future will be able to register their SIMs by simply showing their NIN numbers and vice versa. The organized labor has commended the Kogi State government for the latest round of payments to its workers and pensioners. The Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, gave the commendation in a statement issued in Lokoja, the state capital. The statement, signed by the state chairman of the NLC, Mr. Onu Edoka, and his TUC counterpart, Ranti Ojo, described the payment of the salaries and pensions as a huge relief. The labor leaders applauded the government for keeping to its promise to defray the outstanding salaries and pensions being owed workers and retirees. They also appealed to the federal government to expedite action on the release of the 30.8 billion naira balance of the bailout fund to the state government. The unions directed workers to continue to be law-abiding and support government policies and programs to the fullest. The police in the Federal Capital Territory have arrested 38 suspects involved in kidnapping and gun running. The suspects were paraded on Monday at the South headquarters in the state capital by the force spokesman Frank Mba. Our correspondent, Ifeoluwa Eshola, has that report.
The suspects are part of the achievements of the Special Squad of the Operation Puff Adder of the police, apprehended for kidnapping and other crimes. The police spokesman Frank Umba says the suspect made up gangs that specialized in bringing into the country prohibited weapons and gave the details of the 6,000 ammunition recovered from the gang.
What you have on that desk is a total of 6,000 live ammunition. We also recovered a total of 20 AK-47 ammunition, 20 AK-47 rifles, 10 pistols, automatic pistols, 11 Dane guns, and 4-pump action.
Umba also assured the Muslim sisters and brothers that adequate security measures have been put in place to ensure that they can have a peaceful celebration.
The Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Abubakar Damain PMMNI, has ordered all zonal AIGs and commissioners of police nationwide to step up securities in and around their areas of responsibilities. The instructions of the IGP are very clear. Commissioners of police must put in place adequate security arrangements around places of worship, recreation centers, the highways, and other areas where we expect Nigerians, particularly our brothers and sisters who have had this long period of fasting, to enjoy quiet and relaxing moments.
Operation Puff Other, which was launched by the Inspector General of Police, Abubakar Adamu, is aimed at reclaiming the public space from heinous criminal elements that are bent on threatening the nation's internal security. Ifeoluwa Ishola, reporting for Clearview Television.
And for some entertainment news now, Nigerian music stars Simi Sola Adenkule Gold, popularly known as Simi and Okafor Uchenna, known as Mr. Real, have got some pieces of very kind and really important advice for their fans. They want their fans not to be driven by the quest for money, but be real and natural. The music stars made this known during the recent inauguration concert held in Abuja to mark the swearing-in of the President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osibanjo for his second term in office. Let's now join our entertainment correspondent Cecilia Coley for details of these and more.
The two music stars, Simi and Mr. Real, while advising their fans, challenged their teaming fans to always be themselves, to be real and to be natural.
You have to be like yourself. I mean, I have mentors that I look up to as well, but no, everybody's path is different. Everybody's energy is different. Don't ever compare your story to someone else's. That's the fastest way to depression. Just continue to strive for what you want. Don't let money drive you. Money is great, but don't let that be your driving force, because, you know, I feel like that's the worst driving force. So work hard. Don't just depend on your talent, because talent is cheap. Plenty people have talent. It's just you have to work hard. You have to be consistent and keep learning and believe in yourself, because you're capable of anything.
You have to believe in God, and you have to be focused, and any hustle, just believe in it, that one day is going to pay you.
They also spoke on their motivation and inspiration when it comes to music.
I think the most important thing is to make sure that your heart is in the right place and your energy is in the right place, and because it's what you have that you can give. You can't give what you don't have. So I try to make sure that I'm in a good place in my head and in my body.
Natural, that's why I'm called Mr. Real. It is really me. It comes out natural. There's no need, I don't need to, everything is real, very natural. So let me just say let just Almighty God bless me with that kind of energy.
For the teaming fans of Simi and Mr. Real, expectations remain high that they will always begin to tailor their lifestyles in line with the words of wisdom from their idols. Cecilia Okoli reporting for Clearview Television.
If you're just joining us, you're right in time for another short break. We'll be back with more news. Please stay with us.
The Nigerian police force, through the dogged efforts of the Inspector General of Police, IG Mohammed A. Adamu, in a bid to combat the high rate of criminality and criminal elements, kidnappers, domestic offenders, violence, cultism, rape, robbery, amongst so many others, has launched the Police VGS mobile app. The Police VGS mobile app is a web-based dispatch system for quick emergency reporting of incidents by citizens, for the prompt response by the Nigerian police and other emergency and security agencies. Within 5 seconds of reporting, the appropriate government security or emergency agencies will be alerted and help will be deployed immediately. If you find yourself in a situation where your life or the life of another is threatened, such as kidnap, rape, robbery, road accidents, fire incidents, medical emergencies, natural disasters, or any attempt on your life or the life of a fellow Nigerian, all you need to do is to silently swipe the Police VGS app on your mobile phone. Policemen will be alerted immediately and help will be sent your way promptly. This is particularly handy in case of kidnap on the highway, roadside, one chance, or case of robbery or any communal unrest whatsoever. All a victim needs to do is just to swipe the app on a phone, either as a victim or an observer. Policemen will be alerted immediately and help will be deployed for appropriate intervention. Apart from reporting emergencies, the app also has a unique features such as Escort Me. Once this app is activated, the police force and other security agencies will receive the coordinates of the dispatcher of the distress. Either on the highway or within the city, a user can also report incidents, the eyewitness feature on the app. The mobile app is available for all Nigerians on the iOS and the Google Play Store platforms. Android or iOS phone became Police VGS Mobile Reporter. As soon as a subscription to the Police VGS app is made, the Nigerian police will be on hand to attend to incident reporters in a matter of seconds. Swipe to safety. Terms and conditions apply. Always remember, the police is your friend. This message is brought to you courtesy of the Office of the Force PRO.
On the foreign scene, Sudan's military leaders say they are scrapping all existing agreements with the main opposition coalition and will hold elections within 9 months. The announcement came as the military faced mounting international condemnation for their violent attack on protesters in the capital Khartoum, which reportedly left at least 30 people dead. The US said it was a brutal attack. The crackdown came after the military and protesters agreed a 3-year transition period to civilian rule. Demonstrators argue that former regime of President Omar al-Bashir, who was overthrown by the military in April after months of protests, is so deeply entrenched that a transition of at least 3 years is needed to dismantle his political network and allow for elections. The Transitional Military Council, TMC, which has governed since the coup, and negotiators for the pro-democracy movement had also agreed on the structure of a new administration. But the TMC's head, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, said in a statement broadcast on state television that they had decided to stop negotiating with the Alliance for Freedom and Change and cancel what had been agreed on. An election in 9 months' time will take place under regional and international supervision, he added. In the wake of killings, the leaders of the pro-democracy movement said they were cutting all contact with the TMC and called for total civil disobedience and a general strike. US President Donald Trump has said he believes Britain can have a very, very substantial trade deal with the US after it leaves the EU. Mr. Trump spoke to business leaders at a meeting co-hosted by the Prime Minister on the second day of his state visit. They announced meeting for talks with contentious issues such as doing business with Huawei on the agenda. Protests are expected across the UK, with Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn due to address a rally in London. May is also expected to set out the UK's position on climate change and Iran during the meeting with the president at Downing Street. The breakfast meeting of 5 British and 5 American firms, senior ministers and officials at St. James Palace was held in a bid to boost trade links. Mr. Trump said he believes there was scope for further expansion of trade between the US and the UK. He said, "I think we have a very, very substantial trade deal," he told Mrs. May. "This is something you want to do, and my folks want to do," he added. May said there were huge opportunities for Britain and the US to work together in the future. Thousands of people are expected to join protests against Mr. Trump's visit on Tuesday. A national demonstration in London's Trafalgar Square will start at 11 o'clock, while the protests are also planned in Birmingham, Stoke, Sheffield, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Chester, Leicester, Oxford and Exeter. Organizers have called for a carnival atmosphere, but a huge police operation is taking place in central London to prevent any disruption to Trump's trip. The wife of Israeli President Reuven Rivlin died on Tuesday at 73, a few months after a lung transplant. Rivlin, whose formal title was Israel's First Lady, had undergone the lung transplant in March due to the pulmonary fibrosis that afflicted her in recent years. In Israel, the presidency is largely ceremonial and executive power rests with the prime minister, but her death led to an outpouring of grief from across the political spectrum. She regularly appeared alongside her husband at ceremonies and events in recent years, despite having to use a portable oxygen tank. Due to her condition, senior Labour lawmaker Shirley Yechimovich called her smart, funny, vital, and extraordinarily modest. Born in the Sharon region in central Israel to immigrants from Ukraine, she studied natural sciences at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, where she worked as a researcher. She married Reuven Rivlin in 1971 and had 3 children and 7 grandchildren. And China has rebuked U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo for remarks he made on the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square protest. Mr. Pompeo criticized China's human rights record and called for it to reveal how many people died in the crackdown. A Chinese embassy spokesman in Washington, D.C. said his comments were an affront to the Chinese people. In 1989, a large political protest in Beijing triggered a brutal clampdown by the communist authorities. The Chinese government has never said how many people died at Tiananmen Square, although estimates range from the hundreds to thousands. On Monday, Mr. Pompeo had urged China to make a full public accounting of those killed or missing to give comfort to the many victims of the dark chapter of that history. He also accused China of abusing human rights whenever it serves its interest, giving the example of China cracking down on its minority Uyghur people in the Xinjiang region. Mr. Pompeo said U.S. hopes have been dashed of China becoming a more open, tolerant society through greater global integration. On Tuesday, in a rare public reference to Tiananmen Square, the Chinese embassy said China had reached the verdict on the political incident of the late 1980s long ago. A spokesman said Pompeo had used the pretext of human rights for a statement that grossly intervenes in China's internal affairs. He added that his remarks were filled with prejudice and arrogance. And up next is sport news, and our correspondent Tulu Oguntimain is standing by.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Hello and welcome to the sporting segment of Clearview Television. I'm Ogutimehin Tolulapo Ogutimehin. Players of the Nigeria Under-20 team have failed to leave their hotel rooms after being kicked out of the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Poland. The Flying Eagles went to Poland as one of the African representatives at the FIFA World Cup. They camped for the competition and played without allowances and bonuses, but were promised that once they get to Nigeria, they will get all outstanding money due to them. However, the Igbogun-led Under-20 players are now insisting they will not leave the hotel until all money owed them are paid. A member of the team who pleaded anonymously disclosed to media that the players are not leaving their hotel rooms today to Nigeria unless the officials pay the bonuses and match allowances. According to him, the officials told them to come down to Nigeria before they will pay. But we refused and we are all in our rooms. As I'm speaking right now, we are not leaving, the player said. The Flying Eagles' unimpressive World Cup campaign came to an end on Monday night after losing 2-1 to fellow African brothers Senegal. Success Makojola's 15-minute effort was not enough as he only made a consolation goal for the team. Super Eagles coach Gernot Rohr has admitted that he faces a selection headache as his team step up preparations for the African Cup of Nations 13 June 21 in Egypt. The Eagles started training yesterday in Asaba, Delta State, with 25 players, including Captain John Kelobi, working out. It is always great to have these great players to work with, but the sleepless night for me will come between the night of June 8 and the morning of June 9 in Asaba, after the friendly match against Zimbabwe, when I have to drop 2 players from the 25-man provisional list, Rohr said. It's always a hard thing to do, but it has to be done because I will have to leave out at least one of the strikers. Speaking on the impressive early turnout of players, Rohr said it was a sign the Eagles are ready to work hard and win the tournament. Maker has at all times been a professional, and the fact that he arrived here early means that he's very committed to do well and lead us. Real Madrid have confirmed the signing of Serbia striker Luka Jovic from Eintracht Frankfurt. 21-year-old Jovic has agreed a 6-year contract with the Spanish giant, while the move is subject to medical. Real Madrid and Eintracht Frankfurt have agreed to the transfer of player Luka Jovic pending the medical examination, the La Liga club said on Twitter. Jovic played a key role in Bundesliga side Frankfurt's run to the Europa League semi-final before they were knocked out by Chelsea in a penalty shootout at Stamford Bridge. He scored 27 goals in 48 appearances in all competition from Frankfurt this season, including 10 in Europa Leagues. Jovic spent 2 seasons on loan at Frankfurt from Benfica before the move was made permanent in April. Caster Semenya will not need to take testosterone-reducing medication to compete after a Swiss court temporarily suspended a new IAAF ruling. The 28-year-old Olympic 800-meter champion last month lost her challenge to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, against the implementation of a restriction on testosterone levels in female runners. The ruling would have affected the women competing from 400 meters to the mile. The IAAF said its eligibility rule for DSD athletes will remain in place until they receive official notification from the Swiss court. In a statement, the governing body said, "We have received no information from the Swiss Federal Supreme Court, so we cannot comment on these proceedings at this stage, and our regulations will stay in place unless and until we hear directly from the SFT with an order to the contrary." Semenya took up appeal to the SFT following decision by CAS, citing the need to defend fundamental human rights. Our legal representative, Dr. Dorothy Schramm, said the court has granted welcome temporary protection to Caster Semenya. In a statement to the sporting media, the SFT said it has superprovisionally instructed the IAF to suspend the application of the eligibility regulations for the female classification for athletes with differences of sex development with respect to the claimant until decision on the request for issuance of provisional measures. It added, at present, it is not known when the Swiss Federal Supreme Court will issue an interlocutory order concerning these provisional measures. In its initial judgment, CS found that the new rules proposed by the IAF athletics World Governing Body for athletes with differences of sexual development, DSD, were discriminatory, but concluded that discrimination was necessary, reasonable and proportionate to protect the integrity of female athletes. The South African is set to compete in a 2,000-meter race in Paris on Tuesday, 11 June, but could instead decide to compete in the upcoming Diamond League event in Oslo on 13 June and Rabat on 16 June. Jo Cota became the first British woman to reach the semi-finals of the French Open in 36 years with a rout of Sloane Stephens at Roland Garros on Tuesday. Cota, who had never won even a match on the clay of Roland Garros before this year, played arguably the best match of her career against Stephens, who herself had looked in a good form en route to the quarters. Stephens, who reached the final at Roland Garros in 2018, was simply blown away by the Brit in straight sets 6-1, 6-4, and really looked like getting a handle on Cota's aggressive service game. A balanced start to the match lasted for just 3 games before Cota stepped up to a gear to secure an early break to go 3-1 up in the first set, and that game sparked a ridiculous run from the 28-year-old who made it 7 games in a row when she went a break and 2 games up in the second set. Cota's aggressive returning game was impressive, but it was her service that really proved unstoppable, with the Brit winning over 80% of its first serve points and giving Stephens little to no chance on a large number of points. Stephens certainly didn't capitulate, responding well in the second set to the challenge posed by a red-hot opponent, at least taking 3 service games in the second set. But in this sort of form, Cota is going to be a match for anyone, and will go into the last 4 brimming full of confidence. Defending champion Rafael Nadal continued his fine form at Roland Garros as he hammered Kei Nishikori in straight sets 6-1, 6-1, 6-3. Nishikori, the 7th seed, came into the match in an ideal circumstances as had to survive a marathon clash with Benin Pierre in the last 16 on Sunday. The 29-year-old looked completely shattered, and facing Nadal on clay was about as bad as it could have been. The Spaniard showed no mercy and ruthlessly dismantled his opponent in the opening 2 sets to put himself in a commanding position. Nishikori valiantly battled on despite clearly struggling with a shoulder injury, but was unable to prevent a whitewash as Nadal continues his imperious run in this year's competition. Nadal's match to victory was temporarily suspended due to poor weather, but he quickly picked up where he left off when they resumed, wrapping up victory in no time. Nadal now faces blockbuster clash with Roger Federer in the semi-finals, with his old face defeating compatriot Stan Wawrinka. The Football Association announced a 5-year deal with Britain's biggest telecom group BT on Tuesday that will include sponsorship of all England teams and Wembley Stadium. No financial details were given, but report has it that it's worth £50 million over the period. This is a great start to an exciting week for England football, with the Lioness starting their World Cup campaign and the men's senior team in the finals of the Nations League, said the FA's commercial head Mark Bullingham. BT's mobile network, EE, will continue as Wembley's main sponsor. The FA's previous 7-year partnership with car manufacturer Vauxhall expired after the 2018 World Cup. Key striker Knowledge Musona says Zimbabwe aim to be the highest Amsterdam of the African Cup of Nations finals in Egypt, starting later this month. Hoping to surprise with a run deep into the competition, Zimbabwe have been drawn in Group A along with the host Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda, and are aiming to get out of the pool stages for the first time in their history after taking just 1 point from 3 matches in Gabon 2 years ago. We have a good team with good quality, and we are working hard to correct the mistakes from the last tournament, Musona told Reuters at the team's training camp in Durban. We have enough experience, and our initial target is to pass out from the group stages for the first time. Musona, who is contracted to Belgian side Anderlecht but played part of last season on loan at Lokeren, says Zimbabwe is confident of progression despite being underdog after topping a qualification pool that also included DR Congo. Musona adds that one of the keys to their achievement in qualifying for successive Nations Cup tournament has been the fact that many of the players have been together since featuring for the Zimbabwe under-17 side. Zimbabwe will face Nigeria in a friendly in Lagos on Saturday, a chance for the squad to assess their readiness for the June 21 to June 19 Continental Finals. And that's it from the sporting segment of Clearview Television. I'm Ogutimehin to Lulapo Ogutimehin.
Juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side.
Welcome back from the sports break, and just before we wrap up the news, let's look at the stories that made headlines again. As Nigeria joins the world to celebrate Eid al-Fitr, President Muhammadu Buhari has vowed to protect Nigerians against all forms of aggression, even as Muslim faithful call for peace and tolerance during and after the Eid al-Fitr celebrations. Nigeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Tijani Muhammad Bande, has emerged president of the 74th UN General Assembly. And we also reported that Sudan's military leaders say they are scrapping all existing agreements with the main opposition coalition and will hold elections within 9 months. That's the news, but remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel via Clearview TV, like us on Facebook via Clearview Television Online, follow us on Twitter at Clearview Online, as well as Instagram at Clearview TV_NG. You can also watch Clearview TV on Natchcom Sound with any free-to-air decoder. For details, contact your local installer. I am Nten Ekpan. Many thanks for watching.